So we just really completed our first full day. A little aside from Monday relative to the Raider game plan. Any questions?
We saw Jerry out there during the opening
Yeah,
period of
he was
practice.
limited.
You said the other day that you're going to vote on captains every Monday.
Kareem Jackson, Justin Simmons, Cortland Sutton, Russell Wilson, Mike McGlinchey, and then Riley Dixon on special teams. So those 6 guys.
What does that say to their teammates?
Yeah.
What do you trust those guys with this year?
Well, look, there's a lot that goes into that. Guys lead in their own ways. Obviously, the veteran players vote on these guys, and generally speaking, your better teams are player-led teams. Your average teams are coach-led teams, and your poor teams really have no leadership. So, I think it's important.
You talked about having a bunch of different voices in the quarterback room. What do you like about having John Morton and Lombardi and yourself and Davis sort of?
Yeah, I mean, there's a unique chemistry in there. Obviously, Austin's day-to-day with those guys, and then the other group of us. When you look at Joe as the coordinator and Johnny, there's so much that goes into these plays and pictures that the room flows fine. It's not noisy or busy. It's quite a bit of experience in there. So it's something that we kind of set up intentionally with who's in there and the structure of it.
Is it easy to keep it where it doesn't get noisy when you have that many?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wonder if you kind of summarize what you've seen out of Marvin Mims, and you think he's ready to play a significant role if needed on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean he's someone that I feel like once he got back in the swing of things and he's healthy, we saw his progress in camp, out of practice. We saw it even in the Ram game, and he's moving well. He'll have a role not only as a returner but as a receiver.
Sean, you've done things a certain way during the regular season for a long time, the same way. How long do you think it'll take to get everyone on the same page that you want them to be on, so that Wednesdays look the same in October and November and December?
Yeah, look, I think we're always teaching. This is the first week. All of us collectively together are in season, if you will. It's our first in-season week. So, how we handled the bonus day Monday, what our Wednesdays look like, and then tomorrow and Friday the same way, even Saturdays walk through and hotel meetings. So I'm sure there'll be some nuances or things that are a little different, but we meet as a staff each night. We clean up things that we want to see differently, and so I don't anticipate that to be a big change.
You had success in, I think it was your last 3 openers with the Saints, but even back like your last 6, you score a lot of points. Is that a byproduct of knowing the opponent for a long time? Or what would you see as a function?
I don't know. I think generally speaking, I tie success to good, And so when we talk about these things, well, our record at home has not been this or it's been this. We were just talking about, during Mike's run, those guys were 23-1 at home, for a period of 3 years. They were probably good, and so I think the good comes before the home. And I think the same thing takes place. We've lost opening games before in New Orleans on teams that weren't as good, but our better teams are teams that generally started fast. And one of our best teams in 11, we lost week 1. I don't know, probably were 2-2 at some point and then won 8 in a row. I would say generally speaking, teams that end up in double-digit wins, have stretches that they put together and stack together. But obviously, you want to play well. It's a home game. It's a division game. It's our first game. But I don't look at maybe the results in New Orleans as, that there were a lot that went into that, and this is different.
You talked before about in '06, you told Mickey in the preseason you weren't quite sure where that
I
team was at.
wasn't, the '06 team, yeah.
And you got off to a fast start. So
We did.
I'm curious, do you find yourself drawing back to that year in particular?
Well,
because it's the first year?
It's not uncommon when the season starts to, you're anxious to see what you have. You haven't played a full game with your starters. You've been in the preseason. There's a handful of guys that are new here, coaches and players. And I would always say the first quarter pole of the season, you're in a sprint to improve and make corrections. And so, we're trying throughout this week to hit on everything that can come up with the younger players, ball security. It's different than the colleges they played at. How the ball is attacked defensively here is much more aggressive. And so, trying to head off some of these things that over time you've seen from experience, so that it's not a traumatic event that's forcing us to. Now, it's a game with mistakes. It's not without mistakes, but it's important for us to have a clean plan where guys are playing fast. And those are the things that I draw on, as you get ready to start a season with a new team.
What did Jonathan
Do you have a Frank Clark? We didn't see him when we were out there. Did he come later? Or?
He was out there the whole time.
Okay. Is that,
He's 55.
yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
I didn't think we changed a lot of jersey numbers.
No, that's on me then.
No, he's 55. He's out there.
By nature, quarterback's expected to be a leader, but what are some of the things that Russell Wilson does that makes him even beyond from a leader?
You start with all great leaders, whether sometimes they're just by example, and I wouldn't say that's the case with Russell, but certainly by example, the work he puts in, the amount of time he's on the opponent in the building. Part of that's a position prerequisite, but I would say he's real upbeat. He's positive, encouraging. He has a lot of really good traits that I like. And I think over his career, dating back to college, it's shown itself time and time again.
From the start of OTAs to now, what has Jonathan Cooper done to work his way into the role that he has now at the start of the season?
Yeah, I would say he's been consistent. He's explosive. I think he's been very physical. And, all those guys are going to play. And so, Sunday will be the first time we introduce an offense or defense. And so, look, the first play of the game could be one of 25 personnel groupings. So tell me who the starter is. So what I try to do is, 1 week the fullback will go out. The next week might be a third receiver. I might introduce 12 on offense. The same thing begins to take place on defense. It's a little different than it was 25 years ago. And so, with Cooper, you know exactly what you're getting, and that's a good trait. His strengths, his weaknesses, how he helps us in the kicking game. He's physical. And I think those are things that have served him well.
Coach, last week you said on Monday you would have an idea of what Javonte Williams' snap count would be and what role. What would that look like?
Yeah, well, tell me how many snaps we're going to have. Generally speaking, if you're converting third down, there's a number of things that happen when you end up having a lot of rushing snaps. But look, he's going to play a big role. I haven't put together a number for him. We feel like he and P. Ryan give us, I don't want to say similar backs, and then obviously we have a little different dimension with Jaleel, but we feel like he's moving well. He's strong and healthy, and the preseason was important for him, but more important was the hours he put in the rehab.
I didn't see Dulcich out there. Dulcich?
Dulcich was excused with a family absence.
Okay.
What sort of unique challenge is week one? It's the first time you're seeing this personnel for them. Is there
Well, I think there's not been much staff turnover in Las Vegas. I think it becomes more complex with the new staff or a new coordinator. Certainly there'll be wrinkles and twists that they haven't shown yet, and I think on the other side of it, you know, they're looking at a new staff, maybe some similarities in the defensive scheme, but so you spend a lot of time on cut-ups from the year prior and some of the preseason tape, and you factor all of that in. And then as the season unfolds, you get a little bit more DNA on the opponent.
Time for a few more, guys.
What are some of the hallmarks of Josh's offenses through the years that you've seen?
Well, I think a couple things, because we've always studied them, and they've always had a great two-back presence. I like that, because I think we try to do the same thing. You know, some teams, you know, don't have a fullback, it might be a tight end, but they've always had a good two-back running game and play-action passing game. They're aggressive down the field, and I think their numbers from a year ago dictate that. When you look at their explosive plays, I think they were second in the league in 21 personnel. You know, we think that's an important personnel grouping as well, but there are other teams not so much. So those are just a few things when you watch them. They give you a heavy dose of 11, a heavy dose of 21. They'll get in 12, and they've always been committed to running the ball. And certainly the numbers speak for themselves when you look at those stats from a year ago.
Didn't John Morton also play for Al Moldy in college? And did that have any role in when you guys first got?
No, it was coincidence. Yeah, he did. He played for Al at Western Michigan. I played for Al at Eastern Illinois. And that was really a coincidence after the fact.
Do you have any conversations with Surtain, who obviously has had a great 2 years, but had, I guess, an up and down games against Adams last year? Do you talk to him at all about, hey, that's, you know?
I think, no, I mean, not specifically. I mean, we'll look at those tapes, and the players will look at those tapes. So, shoot, he's had a really good camp, you know, and these are the type matchups you look forward to.
Sean,
One more.
Chris Collinsworth was saying a couple days ago that you don't fix Russell Wilson, you find him, and that you were the perfect fit to find Russell Wilson. I'm wondering if you agree with that assessment.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good observation. You know, we've talked about it ad nauseum. I mean, you know, the things he does well, putting him in those positions, putting our offense in those positions, and I would agree with what he said. I think that makes a lot of sense to me, and our job is to find him.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Coach.
Sean.